The electronic discovery reference model is a structure of the process. It really lays out the structure with which people really need to follow in order to have a successful case. It's really a set of industry leaders have come together to kind of lay out this process, and it's really a workflow that makes sense, that people really were doing anyway, but what this really has done is put together the information in a way that allows people to, kind of document the process. The key pieces of it are that you move from left to right. You start with information governance, which is really about maintaining your corporate information, your corporate data in a way that makes sense. We're focusing in information governance primarily on records management. We're focusing on ensuring that litigation holds are being followed and implemented in a way that makes sense. As a case happens, then we go into identification. Identification is really finding out who are the key suspects, finding out who really should have the information that we need, and then we go into preservation. The preservation is about maintaining the data in a format that makes sense, maintaining the data in a way that does not change any information. Collection is really about collecting the data in the same sort of vein, in a way that makes sense, in a way that is both defensible as well as repeatable. As we go into processing, processing is the process with which we extract information from the data that was collected. The review is really about making sure that people are going through the information in the proper fashion, in a way that allows the end user, whether it's a lawyer or a forensic accountant or someone who is actually doing the analysis, a subject matter expert, for example, to be able to do that workflow in a way that is really useful. The analysis is where most people actually are making their judgments. That is a key phase related to finding the information that ultimately will either prove the case or solve the problem. The production is critical because production is literally the exchanging of information. The data is produced either to another party, produced to a third party, produced to the opposing side. The presentation is literally the point of trial. The presentation is when folks are literally making their arguments related to the matter itself. And then at the end of the case, as you'll see, there's actually a line that loops back around. The data has value. The data that is produced from the case is still a record. And so oftentimes, most people will take that information and reuse that data for future cases. And so as you can see, this is actually a circle. Even though it's laid out very angular, it is a circle. Data from the left starts out very large, and you start out with a large amount of information. As the process moves on, the data volumes get smaller, but the actual relevance increases. And so it's important to understand that piece of it. The key aspects of the EDRM are kind of the process which we go through. Initially, you receive a complaint or there's an action, and then litigation hold is put on. The litigation hold is a notice that goes out to all the key employees or people who are suspected of being a key employee, which they're told they cannot delete any of their materials. Sometimes we'll work with IT to ensure that the custodian themselves doesn't have a choice. Will remove the ability to delete their items, and so they have no choice. They can literally not delete an item even if they functionally hit the button. It just simply doesn't go anywhere. We identify the sources of ESI. There's a process which we need to go through and physically identify where the proper information is. And then we actually preserve the information. We go through and we hold that data in such a way that, again, makes sense, is defensible, and also repeatable. And then, again, the data is ultimately collected. The key with this is that this process, if you do this right, can both save cost, save time, save energy. And if you mess this up front, there's really ripple effects downstream. That's one of the things that's really kind of important here, is to understand that if you do this process right, you can have a very successful case. If you make a mistake up front, if you either miss a source or you corrupt the metadata, oftentimes you have no ability to go back and fix it downstream. And honestly, by the time you would notice it, it may be too late. You may have already corrupted the information in such a way that you cannot go back. And so it's very important to take this process very seriously and ensure that there's no issues up front.